Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Master Your Coaching Biz, the podcast. And today's guest is David Doerrier, and he is a presentation skills expert. And this is going to be a little bit different for us, but welcome, David. We're so excited to have you.
Well, thanks so much, Cheryl. I've been following you for quite some time on LinkedIn, and I am really excited to be your guest today.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for that. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to, become a presentation skills expert.
Well, it's been quite a wild and crazy ride to get me to where I am today, but that ride started on Long Island, New York. I was born, raised, and conceived there in Long Island. And about a year after high school, I joined the Air Force. But as I was growing up as a kid, I was always fascinated with radio broadcasting. I went into the military and I was 10 years active and 18 years in the reserves. But at about my 6 or 7 year mark in the military, I started working part-time for a radio station on Guam. And this was back in the early 80s. And so I was starting to live one of my dreams. So I came off active duty after 10 years, was working full-time in radio broadcasting. And then when I was in the reserves, my first sergeant came up to me and says, "Hey, would you like to be an instructor? Because you've been in this career field for so long, would you like to be an instructor in Georgia?" And I said, "Sure." And that started my 30-year career now in training and development, designing training, delivering all types of training, classroom training, virtual training, e-learning training. And then along the way, I started training the subject matter experts that were in our company to be trainers, facilitators, better workshop leaders, speakers at conferences, and so on, and found that I really loved it. And I've been a part of Toastmasters for on and off for about 30 years. I left my corporate gig last year. I'm now full-time in my own presentyourwaytosuccess.com, and I am loving it.
Oh, awesome. I love when people first start out, in their own business. We're so excited and there's so much possibility, right?
Oh, yes.
So, okay, so that's interesting. So now you help other people present, but not just to present, like also to get their point across and to have the audience respond. And so you kind of cover the whole gambit there of people wanting to present. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, it's more than just stage presence. Certainly I deal with that, and stage fright, deal with that, but more so helping business owners and working with business owners and trainers and salespeople and all types of presenters, from CEOs all the way down to managers, helping them to not only craft a message or recraft their message, but it's all about creating engagement in their presentation, teaching them the foundational skills of how to engage an audience.
Yeah, and that I think is going to be really beneficial for our audience, because engagement is like one of the top skills and top jobs that we really need to do in our coaching businesses to get clients, to get known, to help clients, to basically do anything in our business. We really need that engagement piece. So tell me, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about this adult learning theory, because as adults, we learn differently as adults than we did as children, right? And even as coaches, when we present, when we're trying to teach other people, our audiences, we have to know certain few things to be able to get those points across and get people to retain it, right? So tell us a little bit about that adult learning theory.
That's a great question. So the adult learning theory comes from training. However, the more that I was using it to train trainers to train, the more that I saw that anybody that's making presentations can benefit from it. It's all about learning how adults learn and what adults are looking for when it comes to a engaging situation, not only in learning, but if you are running a meeting or if you're participating in a meeting. Salespeople can use it. Coaches can benefit from this as well. And it's all about learning how to engage the audience and making your message stick. Now, one additional thing is there are principles that all adults are looking for. However, there are differences. One of the things that I found fascinating when I was starting to train trainers to train, that many of them thought, because I learned this way and I retain information this way, that everybody must be exactly the same. Well, no. But there are principles that all adults do look for. So at the foundation of adult learning theory, it's all about how do adults learn, how do they retain information, what are they looking for, and how do you make your message stick?
Okay. And so why do you feel like it's important for presenters to actually know that information?
Good question. Well, first of all, this information, the adult learning theory, can be in two ways. One is when you're actually on stage and using these principles to engage the audience. And these principles can also be used when you're writing your speech, your workshop, your presentation, your e-learning. For example, let me give you one of the principles. One of the principles is the principle of relevance. So if your content is not relevant to your audience, then let me ask you, if you're listening to a speaker and that topic is not relevant to you, what are you going to do?
Yeah, tune out, leave,
Exactly.
whatever it is, whatever we can.
Exactly. So there's one small example. There are 8 principles that all adults are looking for. And so I hope I answered your question.
Yes. Yeah. So, so you said there's 8 principles, and, you know, we're talking about, like, from this, you gave those 2 different scenarios, you know, from the stage and from in writing. And so for us, you know, coaches, content is so important. And so, you know, our stage could be a Facebook Live or a LinkedIn Live or a TikTok, or, you know, whatever anybody's doing. And so this does really apply to us, even if we're not, you know, getting up on an actual, you know, stage or a TED Talk or something. Like, we do these things every day in our business, to market ourselves and to build relationships, but also in our coaching sessions. And so I think that's really important for us to maybe look at these principles and say, okay, how do we take these and make them our own in our actual coaching sessions, as well as how we can, you know, create content around it, because the written content we do all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes. So let me say that I like what you said about, it's not only the physical stage of standing up in front of people face to face. One of my taglines is engage from any stage. So any stage, meaning the virtual stage, the video stage, the actual stage face to face. So any stage you can use these principles.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So let's look at, you know, well, first let's look at this. So based on your experience, where do presenters struggle the most? And I'll kind of give you my take on where I think coaches struggle. We can kind of see, you know, if we meet there.
Okay. Yes. So I see that there are 3 areas that that presenters struggle. I've had an opportunity to evaluate a lot of presenters over the past 4 to 6 years. And there are always 3 areas that I find that I'm giving feedback on. And a lot of these were business people that were presenting at networking events and so on. The number 1 is knowing your audience. Many times I found that the speaker was speaking at the networking event, and it was as if they were speaking to other experts that were in their field. They didn't tailor their message to this audience. And many of us who've been to networking events, you know that the audience is filled with a variety of different small business owners. And now the roofer comes in and gives a presentation about all the technical mumbo jumbo about roofing. and it just goes straight over your head. So number one is to know your audience. Number two is to create stories, create short stories that are relevant to your audience. And these stories should have three parts. And this would be a story about a client. So the three parts of that story include: what was the problem your client was having? What solution did you provide that client? And number three, what was the outcome after they applied your solution? It needs to be a short story, not a long novel type of story. So so far, two things: know your audience, create story. And the third piece that many people forget is the conclusion. There needs to be some sort of wrap up of, let's review what we talked about. Who am I? How do you contact me? What's the call to action? What am I giving away for free, or whatever it happens to be? There's got to be those three things: know your audience, create stories, and have some sort of conclusion.
Yeah, I love that. So just to put it kind of in my language, the first one, know your audience. We use that term as well, but having your ideal client avatar is knowing your audience. If you're going to be teaching or training or doing Facebook Lives or writing up posts, you need to be writing it to that specific person. And like you said, not the plumber or the electrician coming in. And then two, creating stories. Yeah, those are our case studies. Like, we really need to have case studies from people that we've worked with. And so that we're able to give that information and show people the transformation that happens when we work with people. So creating those, those case studies so that we can use in our marketing. So I love that. And then the conclusion is our call to action. So the next step that people have to take that would be our conclusion. What, do you want them to go to a website? Do you want them to sign up for a free consult? Do you want them to buy something? Like, what is that next step? So I love that. It's perfect, and it fits perfectly in with what we do. So those are the top three things that you see.
Yes, I do see other things, but those are the top three.
Okay. So how do we help people that are struggling in those areas to get clarity around it? I think that's a long conversation, but just generally speaking, like, maybe what's one or two actions that we can, suggest to help them to move forward with those three?
Well, one is
areas.
To go to my website and get in touch with me, and I'd be more than happy to help out. I've got a free 30-minute coaching session, no selling. I'm not going to be spending those 30 minutes selling you on anything. presentyourwaytosuccess.com. At my website, you'll find a number of buttons to set up a meeting and answer a couple of questions. You can also download for free 2 ebooks that I've written. One is on the adult learning theory, and the other one is some do's and don'ts when conducting training or conducting a meeting virtually. So definitely with me. Now, there are other ways. Is practice. So anybody can be a great speaker. It takes a strong foundation, just like if you think of your home and you think of the foundation on your home, and if that foundation is crumbling and falling apart, guess what? The house is going to fall over. Just like in speaking or any business, even in coaching. If you're coaching, your foundational coaching skills are not strong, then your coaching programs are more than likely going to fall apart. So what I teach is how to build that strong foundation. Now, there are other outlets. You can go to Toastmasters. I love Toastmasters. It's a great place to practice the craft of speaking.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm curious, how did you end up being in the business of helping presenters connect with their audience?
Well, through training and development, eventually I was training trainers to train, and CEOs at the company, and a variety of other people, leaders, managers, to be better facilitators. And about 4 years ago, I said, and I was a part of Toastmasters, and I've been presenting in Toastmasters for quite some time, and people were coming up to me and saying, "Hey, would you be my mentor? And you really do a good job up here, David." And so I said, "Okay, I'll be your mentor." And I'm finding that there was a need for people to learn the foundational skills, or what I call the ABCs. And I said, wow, I might be able to make a business out of this. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I started creating this as a side hustle, and now it's become my full-time career.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like, there's something that you say. So you talk about without proper education on how to engage with your audience, you'll end up overwhelming them with the information they can't use. I like that, because that's true. That's truth right there. We sometimes we give too much information and it's not relevant. And usually it's when we're like flustered, or we think that they need to have this information, right? But it's really about what the client needs and not what we think they need.
Mhm.
But you say talking and telling ain't training or selling.
Yes.
And I love that. And it's the truth. Just kind of expand on that a little bit more if you can.
Well, that comes from what I've observed over the years. I worked with a lot of IT folks. My background is working in training departments of software development companies and working alongside IT folks and developers that were transitioning into training or leadership roles. And what I observed was, and this is not only for IT folks, like you said, it's with all subject matter experts who don't have the foundational skills of facilitating. And they'll come into a room and just, I'll use the term, vomit information at their audience, and they just get completely overwhelmed. So talking and telling, just getting up in front of an audience. I've heard so many times, I never get nervous when I'm in front of an audience. Well, that's great. That's half the battle right there. But are you connecting to your audience? What you're saying, is it relevant to your audience? What you're saying, have you created an engaging opening, transitions, an engaging closure? Are you using the principle of repetition at times? So just getting up and talking to people and just spilling your guts to people is not training or selling.
Yeah. Where can we find the 8 principles, by the way?
Well, in the ebook on my website, you can download that for free. Just go to Get the Book. That's at the very top of the website, and you'll see one of the options is the well, let me get exactly the name. Well, it's the adult learning, the adult learning theory, and you'll also find in there engaging your virtual audience.
Okay. Oh, I like that. Engaging the virtual audience. Okay, awesome. So, so tell me, who is your ideal client?
That's a great question. The folks that are attracted to me are business owners, trainers, educators, and all other types of presenters. I don't want to say everyone, because it's not. It is presenters, and in every case, these are people that realize that they need to make a change in their presentation, either the way that they're presenting, or they need to upgrade their materials. I like to think of myself as like a doctor or a dentist, where you go to your family doctor every year to get a physical to make sure that you're running smoothly, the dentist to get your teeth cleaned and make sure everything is running well, the same with your car. So I'd like to think that I'm kind of the same way, where people need to get their presentations checked out and have that third eye look at it. Even though you've been presenting it for years and years and years, getting that third eye to just examine it, I guarantee that I will be able to find opportunities for additional engagement, maybe a different opening or some suggestions on creating a different opening to gain attention from your audience, and also helping with that closure, and maybe even finding some additional objectives to add to it.
Yeah, awesome. All right. And then tell me so I hear some the passion when you're talking about helping people. So tell me, what do you love best about coaching and training others? Because again, we're coaches and we're trainers. A lot of us are trainers. and definitely presenters. So what do you love about doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. As I mentioned, I've had an opportunity to work with a lot of trainers over the years, and I've been able to ask them that same exact question. What do you love about training? And every single one of them say exactly the same thing, and that is that gotcha moment, or when the light bulb goes off. And to see that what you've been presenting, what you've been facilitating, what you've been sharing to either an audience or to one-on-one coaching or mentoring, and seeing that it's working and that they're learning and they're able to apply it. To me, that is the most gratifying part of it.
Yeah, that's for me as well in coaching. Okay, so you have a free gift for our audience, which is a 45-minute complimentary session, and it's a one-on-one coaching session, and you'll help them to kind of up their game with the presentation skills. So I love that. And then can you tell us your website again?
Sure. It is presentyourwaytosuccess.com.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, David. Lots of great information and tips in there. Guys, take some action today. Take David up on his offer, and we will talk to you at our next episode. Thanks a lot. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.